Hi, this is National Master Dan Heisman, and we're here with another video to help you improve your chess game. Now that ICC has changed, I no longer have my old computer to play against, so I have to try a new one. So let's think out loud. That's Kappa barking over there, dog Kappa. So let's try a 45-30 game against level 4 on LiChess. Kappa, I'm making a video. They don't want to hear you bark. All right, let's see how good it is. We'll pick a random color and click on that and see what happens. Make sure we can center the board. All right, there it is. The board looks pretty centered. It gave me white. It says I'm white. All right, I have no idea what openings this plays. Let's just play e4 and see what happens. e4. We're going to try to concentrate on thinking out loud, letting you know what I'm thinking about. All right, so we're just going to play book moves. We've got a center counter here. Pawn takes. He's thinking. Knight f6. All right, so the main moves here are to play knight f3 and to play d4. He's going to take with the knight. Eventually you play d4 and c4. Let's just play knight f3. g6. So he's delaying taking the pawn. Probably not a good idea to try to guard it with something like c4, then he could gambit a pawn and my d-pawn would become weak. It's better just to play normal chess here. I could play knight c3 first. I can play d4. d4 looks like a good waiting move to see where I want to put my king bishop so I can castle. So let's do that, d4. We've got a 30-second increment, so he's still not taking. I could play c4 and guard the pawn now. It's not a terrible move to do that. He would gambit with c6, then I'd have to decide if I want to accept the gambit with pawn takes, or whether I just let him take, or I can simply just develop my pieces here. I could play bishop to b5 check. He could either play c6 and gambit a pawn, or play bishop d7, and eventually he gets the d-pawn back. All right, so we could play c4 and just give him the pawn back. Let's do that, see what he does. c4. e6, so it's like an Icelandic gambit now. But not quite as good because he's fianchettoed. So if we accept the gambit, he takes with the bishop. I play bishop e2 and then castle. Looks pretty safe. All right, let's try that. I'll take it. Takes with the pawn. That's weaker. Isolated pawn. Now, he can't play bishop g4 anymore. The question is, should I play bishop e2 or bishop d3? If I play bishop to d3 and he plays knight c6, he's not threatening knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4 because the bishop takes g6 check. But he could castle and then do that. Excuse me. But I can always guard the pawn with bishop e3. It would be nice to keep the e-file open here. Let's do that. Get a tissue there. All right, let's play bishop d3. Knight c6 as expected. We're just going to castle. He can't take the pawn because he loses the piece. All right, now he's threatening to take the pawn. So now either have to play bishop e3 or play d5 or play bishop to e2 or something. Bishop e3 looks reasonable. If he plays knight to g4, I can just play knight to c3. All right, let's do that. Let's play bishop to e3. And he does play that. All right, time to keep developing my pieces. Let's play knight to c3. Well, he is threatening to d-pawn the third time, so I should think about that. I could play bishop to e2 and guard it that way. I could play bishop to e4. Bishop to e4 isn't terrible. There's some lines where I can give up the bishop pair and play bishop takes c6. It also guards the knight. Well, let's do that. Bishop to e4. All right, we have to recapture. We'll do that right away, gain some time. a5, not sure what that does. Okay, I could take the knight and play off of e5. Don't think there's any rush to do that. Let's just develop the knight. Looks like knight to c3 is the best square. We'll play that, knight c3. Bishop d7 now, taking the knight is not good. All right, time to develop the queen. Where do I want to go? Do I want to go to d2 and then double the rooks on the f file maybe? If he plays e5, I can always play d5. Yeah, I think that looks reasonable. Let's play queen to d2. All right, he's thinking about what he wants to do. He hits my weak e-pawn. Can he hit it again with anything? Not right away. I can't play knight e5 yet. I could play bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, and then knight e5. Then where would he put the bishop? Not clear. He could put it back on e8, I guess. That doesn't seem to be the right thing. If I play rook at f2, threaten to double my rooks, that looks pretty reasonable. Black's probably roughly equal here. I'm a little better with my control of the center. All right, let's get my rooks on the f file. Rook f2. Queen to e8. All right, let's get my last rook into the game. Play rook a f1. All right, now there's some threats to play knight takes d4 in some lines. So I have to be a little careful. If I move my queen to e2, what would be the follow-up? I could also play d5 in some lines, but then after he takes, my e3 pawn is exposed. So I probably want to get my bishop out of the way in some lines. Maybe bishop to d3 followed by queen to e2, or queen to e2 first. I kind of like queen to e2 first. Let's do that. Get the queen out of the pin on the e-pawn. Okay, computer's thinking. He plays queen up to e7. All right, I'm thinking of moving my bishop on e4 out of the way, which lets me play maybe e4 and then d5. His queen is not threatening anything new. If he plays queen to b4, he's not hitting anything. Bishop d3, is that the best square for the bishop? I could play bishop to b1 to keep the queen on that line. Let's play bishop d3. If he plays knight b4, I can play bishop b1. Okay, he plays rook to e8, rook d8. Now I can play e4. He could play rook takes f3, rook takes f3, knight takes d4, rook takes f3, g takes f3, knight takes d4. Even that looks a little annoying, so I probably don't want to do that. Let's, instead of playing e4, maybe I should play knight e4 first, or maybe even play a3 to keep his pieces out of b4. It's probably a good handy-dandy move. Let's do that first. a3. So this level of computer is just playing nice and cautious. All right, I can put my knight on e4. I could put my knight back on e2 and trade off and then play knight e4. But then his queen would come up to g5 or h4 and threaten my e-pawn. I still like to play e4 and rook takes f3, g takes f3, knight takes d4. He has good compensation for the exchange. So if I play d5, that's not good. b4 doesn't work. So I'm thinking I'm going to play knight to e4 with the idea of maybe knight to c5. What else could I do? I could play knight to d2 to trade off rooks. And again, his queen gets to come up when I do that. So that's not all that wonderful. I could play c5 to keep the queen out of the queen side, but I'm not sure that really doesn't make much sense. Knight e4, where am I going? I could play knight g5. He's got a bishop and a queen on it. I could play h4 followed by knight g5. It's not terrible. Is he going to play e5 in some lines? Probably not. I could play c5 and then bishop c4 to improve my bishop and make it hard for him to break in the center. If I play c5 and he plays e5, I can play bishop c4 right away. He could play bishop e6, then I have d5. That looks pretty good. All right, so it is pretty awkward for him. So let's try that. We'll play c5. Okay, he's thinking a little bit, moves the queen back. All right, so the bishop on that diagonal is going to be pretty strong. Let's play bishop to c4. He doubles the rooks. Okay, can we add pressure to the e6 square by playing knight e4 and then h4 and then knight g5? We probably can. Is there something better? Can we play d5 right away? He can't play e5. He can't play knight e5. If he plays d takes e, then bishop takes e wins the exchange. But I'm threatening to take the pawn and I'm threatening to take the knight. Where could he go? If I play d5 and he plays knight to b8, I can play d takes e6. That should win material. If I play d5 and he plays b5, I have d takes c, b takes c, c takes d7, winning a piece. So d5 looks like I might be winning some material. Because if he moves the knight, I take the pawn. He could play rook takes f3 and then move the knight. Rook takes f3, g takes f3, queen g5 check, king h1, queen takes e3. Yeah, I guess that's his best, but I think I'm all right there. Let's play at d5. All right, he takes. Let's pin the rook to the king. Bishop takes. Queen there. So now he's threatening bishop e6, getting the out of the pin. So he's also hitting my e3 pawn. The rook's not running away, but bishop e6 is a threat. Bishop e3 is a threat. If I play e4, he has bishop e6. If I play bishop takes f7 check, then I need to guard my square with something like e4 maybe. Let's see, if I play queen c4, he plays bishop takes e3 and he wins back the exchange. That's not all that good. So it looks like I got to take the rook right away. All right, let's take the rook. Bishop takes. He's in check. He can't take the e3 pawn. He takes with the rook. All right, now do I want to give him the e3 pawn? Probably not. Queen c4, bishop e3 is still not good, although I might have some play. I can pin that bishop at some point. But I think it's probably correct just to play e4 And then maybe in some lines play knight d5 or queen c4 or something like that. All right, let's play e4. And he goes over there. Okay. I kind of like king h1 to get out of all those pin ideas. King h1, if he plays bishop g4, I can play queen c4. I think king h1 is a good idea just to stop all those pins. All right, let's play king h1. He's thinking about it. Bishop e6, stopping queen c4. All right, now I'd like to trade off some knights. Suppose I play knight d5. Am I threatening anything? No, but I am blocking the bishop. What else could I play? Could I play e5 followed by knight e4 followed by knight f6 check? I hear a beep from the other computer. E5 is interesting. Not sure it's right. Can I move the knight on f3 and force some trades? I can play knight to d2 and force the trade of some rooks. That also allows me to play maybe knight d5 and knight c4. I kind of like trading here. My extra rook's not doing much good and his rook's pretty good. His bishop pair is very strong here. His queen is threatening my pawn on c4, so I guess I should pay c5. I guess I should pay some attention to that. If I play knight d2 and he plays queen takes c5, what's my follow-up? Rook takes, bishop takes, queen f2, queen takes, rook takes, holds the knight on d2. I don't see great ways to hold that pawn. I can't play b4. If I play knight d5 and he plays queen takes c5, it really doesn't get me anywhere, I don't think. If I play queen b5 to hold the c pawn, I'm getting a little awkward after bishop e3, hitting the rook and the pawn on c5. So I might have to sack that pawn on c5. But I really want to do it in a good way here. Knight to d2, queen takes c5, rook takes f7, bishop takes f7, then queen to f3 maybe, hitting the bishop, or queen to f2, threatening to trade. I think that's okay. I'm not convinced. I think black's got some decent compensation for the exchange here. I don't see any way to hold that c-pawn. I could play knight to a4. That just looks terribly wrong. Getting another piece out of the middle. Knight a4, queen b5, they both hold the c-pawn, but I'm not convinced how good they are. Knight to d4, he just plays knight takes d4. That doesn't work. Oh, do I have any other cutesy moves? Knight to g5, he just takes it off and I don't have anything. All right, let's try knight to d2. All right, we expect him to do that. Now we're going to get rid of that rook. Rook takes. Yes, take with the bishop. And he plays his Zwischenzug. All right, knight d4. All right, can I play queen f2 and pin that knight and threaten rook f8 check? Well, rook f8 check's not a threat because he's got a bishop and the queen on it, but if he takes my rook with the bishop, then I have queen takes check, which is pretty strong. So I'm not sure knight d4 was a good move. queen f2 looks right. If he plays bishop takes d2, then rook f8 check should be winning. If not, then I can always just take it. So let's play queen f2. See what he's got in mind. Queen d6. All right, well, now I can save my rook. I probably have to give back the exchange at some point. Rook f6 pinning the bishop. If I play rook f6 and he hits the rook, then I can just trade that. I think rook f6 threatening to give back the exchange is the right idea. If he moves the knight and threatens my knight on d2, I don't think there's a problem there. Let's see, can I play e5 here and remove the guard on the f8 square? Let's calculate that. e5, if he plays queen c5, then I have knight to e4. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. So e5 deflects the queen. If queen takes e5, rook f8 check, king g7. Well, maybe that doesn't work. Let's take a look at that. e5, queen takes e5. Rook f8 check. He can't take it because it's mate, so he has to play king g7. Then what? Not as good as I thought it was. e5. Queen takes e5 to guard the f6 square. Do I have a knight move to hit the queen? Knight c4 doesn't work. Knight f3 doesn't do it. e5, queen takes e5, rook f8 check, king g7. Do I have a follow-up? I can trade queens and be up material, but then I lose the knight on d2. e5, queen takes e5, rook f8 check, king g7, queen f6 check, queen takes f6, rook takes f6, bishop takes d2 is no good. Up there goes Kappa barking. I bet she sees somebody outside. All right, so I'm starting to be convinced that e5 isn't the right idea. My original idea was just play rook f6. All right, let's think about this. Rook f6, what would he play? If he plays bishop g7, I think I would play rook takes e6 and get rid of the defenders on either the d4 or the f7 squares. I don't see anything else that he could really do, and he's kind of tied down. I can also play e5 after that in some lines, and then hit the queen. All right, let's play rook f6. This should be a pretty easy win. All right, so he does hit the rook, and my plan was to play rook takes e6. Rook takes e6, queen takes e6, and I am up a whole rook, and he has no bishop here anymore. What else could I play? Rook f8 check loses a rook. We don't want to do that. e5 first. Queen takes e5. Rook f8 check is going to be mate. Well, that is pleasant. So he'd have to play queen e7 or something. But if he plays queen c5, I have knight e4, and if he plays queen takes e5, rook f8 check leads to mate. So e5 is looking very, very, very good here. I'm also threatening the knight because his queen is hit by the knight, and I'm threatening mate. So I think I'm winning at least 2 pieces for a rook that way. So e5. He takes with the queen, and now, if I'm not missing my calculations, rook f8 check, bishop takes f8, queen takes f8 is mate. All right, when you see him move the wins, you don't play it right away. You look, am I missing something? Am I in check? Does he have another piece that can actually guard that f8 square? I don't see it. So rook f8 check, bishop takes f8 is only move, queen takes f8 is mate. We'll let him think about it a little here. Bishop takes, queen takes, checkmate. And they say, I'm victorious. Okay, hopefully you followed my thought process during the game. That's the first game I've played on my channel ever against a LiChess computer. And it's also the first game I've played since my birthday this summer. So I'm yet another year older and another year weaker, but that's the way it goes. All right, but hopefully you learned something about how to analyze and evaluate positions. Chess is all about learning how to think, and to get a chance to hear a chess master think out loud is a really good capability for people to learn. So pass the word, and if you'd like to like the video, great. If you want to subscribe to the channel, good, but the main thing to do is tell everybody about my channel, Dan Heisman Chess. Thanks a lot. Bye.